Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Skip Mason,
pastor, preacher, historian, author,
teacher, librarian, archivist, world traveler,
collector, family historian, avid reader, and creator of the popular Vanishing Black Atlanta Facebook page.
But a lot of folks who love history.
Most importantly,
he's our
dad who loves his family and who taught us the importance of our history and having important conversations.
Join him now for this episode of Conversations with Dr. Skip.
Well, it is the day after Juneteenth. And who would have ever thought or imagined that a celebration that was typically celebrated only in the southwestern states received the kind of national and international acclaim that it did. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another conversation with Skip Mason. I am so glad to see you on this Saturday. I know it's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and many of you all are out in the streets and enjoying, and I surely hope you have your mask on today, as I hope you had it on yesterday. I went to several events. I had to speak at the event in East Point. I did the Douglasville Juneteenth. That was Zoom. Did an interview with with Fox 5 and WSP TV radio station. It was a busy, busy day, but I'm so grateful and thankful for the conversation and the attention to understanding what Juneteenth is. And it was not the day that our ancestors were freed. It is the day when they got notice down in Galveston, Texas, that the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued 2 years earlier, and they were free. Our folks in the South knew about the freedom in January of 1865 and had heard about it because Abraham Lincoln signed it in 1862. So it's all tangled and weeded up in an interesting piece of our history. And so yesterday had significant meaning, and I could not think of a better time to share about what it means. Yesterday was about the ancestors, their struggle, calling their names out, raising that fist of power that we have inherited in our DNA. You all know how I am about the DNA and understanding who you are and whose you are uniquely. By the way, Ancestry has the DNA test on sale for $59. That's a steal. I encourage you to take the test. Don't get caught up in all those suspicion theories about it. That DNA is phenomenal. Many of my family members have tested. I've been on late night with them, walking them through. They're making connections, learning more about their family history, finding out that they were cousins with people they went to school with and dated. That's why you need to take the DNA test. Some of y'all married to cousins. You don't even know it. I know some of your people. Well, they're your relatives. So, at any rate, I just wanted to share that. I'm so excited today to bring up my guest in just a moment. He's coming. He's the distinguished president of the Piney Woods School in Piney Woods, Mississippi, the school where my son attends. And yesterday he had a fierce campaign on Juneteenth, bringing attention to this great institution and seeking support. But before I bring him on, since I have some of you on there, let me just tell you, I got some wonderful guests coming up this week. On Tuesday, I want you all to join me as I welcome actor Tim Reed, actor, director, writer, the first African-American to own his own studio before Tyler Perry. Let's get these facts straight. Tim is going to be my guest on Tuesday evening for a great conversation around 9 or 10. I'll let you know. You know how I am with those late night conversations. And then on Wednesday, I am checking in with my boys from Broadway. I'm a huge Broadway fan. I wanted to be a Broadway actor back in the day. My high school friends said that it all happened when I was in the 7th grade and I was the star of the 7th grade musical Rumpelstiltskin. And I was bitten by that bug. So I go 2 or 3 times a year. My kids have been going to Broadway since they could walk. But two of my boys from Broadway, my good friends, Donald Weber, who stars in Hamilton, will be with us on Wednesday, as well as Daniel Watts, who currently stars as Ike Turner in the Tina Turner musical. Both of them will be sharing with me on Wednesday. So please join in. We're going to have a wonderful time. They're out of work right now, as you well know. So we're going to check in with them and just to see how they're doing and learn more about their tremendous craft. But it is my joy and my pleasure to bring to you the distinguished president of the great Piney Woods School. You're going to learn a lot about Piney Woods and what they're trying to do. And let me welcome right now to the screen my good friend and brother and president, attorney, Dr. Will Crossley. Mr. President.
Dr. Mason, it's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh man, I'm glad to have you on. Man, you were all over Facebook yesterday, all day, all night. I mean, I got ready to say my prayers late. I looked at my phone and there you were doing a late night. I said, man, what a grind. I love it. All for the kids, all for the kids.
All for our students. We have been on a terror to tell the world about Piney Woods so that we could raise scholarship dollars for our students.
Yes.
As a result of COVID-19, initially things began to subside in our scholarship revenue planning.
Sure.
And so we really needed to begin to shore that up. And so we've just been getting out and sharing the good word of the school and what we've been able to do for young people over the years. Yesterday was a phenomenal Juneteenth.
Yes,
was
sir.
A fitting day for us to talk about an extraordinarily historic institution that we have the honor of serving. And so we thought we would take some time and share that with everyone.
Well, tell us a little bit. And before my friends who are watching, would you host a watch party, please? Would you share to other pages and other friends? And I know this will be on recorded and we'll share it later. But those of you who are watching, would you please host a watch party? Brother Will, tell us a little bit about the history of Piney Woods.
Absolutely. So Piney Woods, now nearly 111 years old now. Piney Woods was founded in 1909 by Lawrence C. Jones. Lawrence Jones was a college-educated African-American in 1909, a rare college-educated African-American. He was the first to graduate from his high school, first African-American, the first African-American to graduate his class from University of Iowa, and really wanted to take what had been entrusted and invested in him and provide it to his people. And so he came south to Mississippi intentionally to bring education to those who did not have it. And so that brought him here to rural Mississippi, rural Rankin County. At the time, all of the literacy rate here was abominable, not just among African Americans, but among everyone in this region. And so he really brought that here and started this school. He started with one student.
One student.
Himself was a single teacher on a fallen log under the shade of an old cedar tree. He remembered learning a lesson that where two are gathered upon a log, therein lies a school.
Amazing.
Amazing. And after some time of trying to get a school started and failing on that, this young man came and sat down next to him on a log, saw that he was reading and wanted to learn how to read. He invited the young man to come back the next day so he could teach him how to read. The following day, the young man brought two friends with him. and you can tell the people here were hungry for education. And so that was really how the school began, outside, on seated logs, using wooden stumps for desk, and
Wow.
that was our very beginning. At the time that we started, Lawrence C. Jones had in his possessions finances to the value of $1.65.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a number of clothes, and of course books and reading materials, and he had a Bible.
Okay.
And those were the founding principles upon which Piney Woods began. He had a lot of commitment, a lot of perseverance, a lot of hard work and energy, and he put everything he had into making this successful. Our work now is to take up the legacy
Yes.
that began then and ensure that it continues for our people. And so I'd love to tell you about our first major donor.
And before you do that, tell everybody who Mr. Jones is related to. Make that connection for us, please.
Yeah, so so it's interesting because the history goes forward and backwards.
Yes.
Coming forward, Lawrence Jones's daughter is a woman, Helen Woods Jones, who was a member of the International Sweethearts of Rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
was the first interracial all-girls jazz band in the United States.
That's right.
Founded right here at Piney Woods School and toured internationally, raising money for the school. Well, Helen Woods Jones eventually moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and there had a daughter who we all recognize the name of Kathy Hughes.
Yes, yes.
Kathy Hughes, the founder of Radio One and now Urban One companies, which includes Radio One, includes TV One, Urban One, includes Interactive One. And so Kathy Hughes is the granddaughter of Lawrence C. Jones and spent much time here at Piney Woods. She went to school here, but did not graduate. Did not graduate from here. Spent a lot of summers here in our summer camp program, and of course with her grandfather. And so she's always been intimately related with our work, and she continues to serve on our trustee board.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's great. And that International Sweetheart of Rhythm, that's a movie waiting to be made. Can you imagine a movie about a female band started at Piney Woods with an all-star cast? We got to work on that movie, Mr. President.
Well, we're ready.
We have to call some of our folks in Hollywood and New York and say, this is the movie, and the proceeds will go to the Piney Woods School.
And listen, there were of course African American members of that group.
Yes.
But there were also white members of that band. There were Hispanic, Latina members of that band, and Asian members of that band. And so you're talking about a really true culturally diverse and culturally enriched group of young ladies, and they were just phenomenal. They, in fact, did so well they eventually broke off from the school.
Okay.
And traveled on their own and purchased a place in Washington, D.C. They have been recognized by the Smithsonian Museum for their work and the historical mark that they made.
Wow, that's amazing. So we had to get the history out the way. Now tell us what you're doing and what the school is doing. Talk about the campus. I got some great pictures I'm going to put up, but let the folks know what it is that is taking place and why has Piney Woods lasted so long?
Yeah, so Piney Woods is it's such an important place, and one of the things I want people to understand is that we were founded on a principle of freedom. Lawrence C. Jones said to the first incoming class, "You've come here for freedom, not from the kind of slavery your parents endured, but freedom from the slavery of ignorance of your mind, awkwardness of your body, to educate your head, your heart, and your hands." And those were the founding principles of our school. Freedom for African Americans is something that goes back to the founding of this country. We know that when the country was founded, we were not considered full persons.
Yes.
So that's something that has animated our work from the very start. And it's something we continue to see animated in what's happening across the country with the Black Lives Matter movement and all that's and all that's going on. But it's really important to also remember that Piney Woods was not only started by African American man and his wife, Grace Jones, but it was also seeded from the very beginning. The first major gift from African Americans. The first major donor of this institution was Ed Taylor, who had been born into slavery, and after the Civil War went north and became successful and came back and farmed the land to great success here. He donated the first $50 to Piney Wood School. He donated the old sheep shed, which became the first schoolhouse and the first quarters of Lawrence C. Jones and those students who would come from so far they couldn't go back home every day. And he donated the first 40 acres.
Wow.
So we didn't get our 40 acres after the war, but an ex-slave gave us our first 40 acres. And those were founding assets for this institution. And we've been able to continue to move forward since then. In the 1950s, Lawrence C. Jones went on the This Is Your Life program.
Yes.
At the end of that program, Ralph Edwards, who was the host of that, asked everyone to contribute $1. If everyone listening would contribute $1, he said, we could keep Piney Wood School going. And so folks contributed. Lawrence C. Jones would jokingly say that folks were slightly disobedient. Some folks very disobedient, they gave $1. And other folks, slightly disobedient, they put $10 or $20 in an envelope and sent it to us. But I mentioned that because you asked, how does Piney Woods how has it kept going? And so before there was social media, before there was internet and email campaigns, and I had the privilege of working for the Obama administration, beginning with the Obama campaign, and first met President Obama when I was in Chicago.
Yes,
I was from Chicago, and that campaign was noted for how well that they got small dollar donations from email and from individual donors. Well, this started here for Piney Wood School long before anybody was thinking about the internet. And so that is, by and large, what has allowed us to continue the work is individuals really sowing a seed in this space for the young people that we serve. And that's part of what we were doing on yesterday, is reviving some of that and inviting others to be a part of this school. These are our children.
Yes.
They deserve a safe space. They deserve an empowering place. And they don't always get that in their local school.
Right.
We aim to provide that for every student who comes here to the Piney Wood School.
Oh, wow. That's tremendous. Tell us about some of the programs that you offer, the curriculum, and the rigorous schedule that you have the kids on.
Yeah, so it's really an exciting program. We our our schedule. The kids always love it when we talk about it because it starts early and it goes all day.
Yes.
We begin early in the morning. All of our kids, I think the first wake up call happens before 6 a.m. and all of our kids have to meet us at breakfast. We dine together before the first class at 8 o'clock. We have a devotional a moment. We spend between 13 and 15 minutes each morning in a period of devotion with our young people because we want them to start the day with the right frame of mind. We want them to start today in a positive fashion. We want them to start the day believing in their own self-worth.
Yes.
And so we do that every morning, and then our students go through a block schedule. Our blocks are between 75 and 90 minutes, and our students go through a block schedule. It's a college prep curriculum, and then lunch and more schedule. Within our schedule is not only coursework, but also work. If you all of the students who attend Pineywood School are assigned a job here on the Pineywood School campus. And so that is incorporated into their day. It incorporates arts and athletics. And so whether they be members of the choir or the basketball team, that's incorporated into that time as well. Students go to dinner. And then after dinner, they get a little break. We have a little free time for them. And then we have study hour in the evening. Periodically in the evening, they might have a practice or rehearsal, that kind of thing as well. But then we have a study hour. All of our students, from a curriculum standpoint, all of our students receive a device when they start here. They receive a Chromebook device because all of our curriculum materials for our core classes are online. This began 3 years ago, where we recognized that our students were already online, but we as adults were not always caught up with them. And so we had to do some professional development to get there. But the world of the internet is so much more powerful than any textbook that we could possibly give a student.
Absolutely. Yes.
So having the versatility, because it is not a set curriculum.
Right.
It is a curriculum platform, but our faculty can go into the platform and they can upgrade the materials, provide new materials.
Yeah.
Things are happening in the world. They can expose students to that. And all of that came in really handy when we could not bring students back to campus after spring break this year.
Right.
Because students already knew how to access their curriculum materials online. And so at that point in time, we were able to make a very clean transition from having students here on the campus to working with students from their home. Our curriculum is very much a project-based curriculum. What we believe in for our young people is 3 C's. We want them to be curious, creative, and constructive. Curious, creative, and constructive. We think those are hallmarks of entrepreneurship. And if our students learn how to do those things, we think that they will be very successful. Project-based learning is the focus of our curriculum because it allows students to be curious, creative, and constructive. And so that's some of what we're doing.
You have students from all over the country, Tell us some of the geographical locations where your students come, not only the United States, but internationally as well.
Yes, and so actually, we certainly have a number of students from here in this state, but a majority of our students actually come from outside of the state or outside of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have students from just about every major city that you could name in the U.S., from Chicago to Los Angeles to Detroit to Baltimore and South Florida, Tampa and Miami and New York and New Jersey. And in fact, when the pandemic hit, because we are in a rural space,
Right.
many parents who had kids in those places were interested in getting their kids back to this rural space.
Yeah.
Because it would be a safe space for them to be. But I haven't mentioned Atlanta, and I should, because Atlanta is perhaps one of our main cities that we draw students from here in the South, in the Southeast. Atlanta is also a primary destination for many of our alumni. Either they leave us to go to college in Atlanta, or after they conclude college, they transition to Atlanta,
right,
for work and profession. And so we have a deep base of individuals there in Atlanta, family, prospective families, as well as students and alumni. And so internationally, our students come from all over the world. We have for a long time received students from the Caribbean and from Mexico. But we receive students from numerous countries around the continent of Africa. And so a large number of students from Ethiopia have been coming to the school for many, many years. Students from places like Ghana and Nigeria. I, in fact, have applications in the hopper right now for students from those places, and from Kenya, from the Congo, and just all around the continent of Africa. We have received students from South Africa,
yeah,
and just throughout the continent. And although we are an African American institution and very proud of it, we are very, very diverse because our students come from so many different places. And so the student who grows up in Nairobi, Kenya, has a different life experience than the student growing up in Atlanta,
right,
or the student growing up in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And so bringing all of those kids together makes for a truly unique space. And one of the things our students always talk about, they come here, they live in student housing. And one thing that students say is they go to college and they're more prepared for what it means to be housed in student housing in college. And at the same rate, one of the things I hear most from college counselors is how well our students do socially when they get to college. A lot of students aren't prepared to be away from home, and they get away from home and they get happy.
Right.
Our students already know how to be away from home.
Yeah.
And so it makes for an important training ground for our students going on to college.
Well, it does. Let me just stop for a second, because, you know, of course, this is personal for me. Last year, we dropped and left our son lovingly to Piney Woods. And it was, you know, we had heard of Piney Woods, and my very best friend in the whole wide world, Maurice Jenkins' son, had gone to Piney Woods. I remember when he snatched, as we called him, little Maurice, out of the public school
Yeah.
The Piney Woods, and fast forward, we needed to do the same for Jadari, and we took Jadari there. Of course, we knew the school had a great reputation, but dropping and leaving your son off, a few years before college, it was quite daunting. But I tell you, someone from your office called last week and asked me to do a quote or something about the school. I said, well, Piney Woods is transformational. It helps to transform the students there, and so with no regrets at all, it was the single best decision that we made. This is Jadari with a few of his friends. And of course, when you have kids in a boarding school, they don't call as much as they used to, I said, well, you can at least text me back to let me know before I take the phone off. But we were so pleased. Not only that, and I want to say this because many of my church members, my church adopted the dorm, and many of you on Facebook, when I asked you to make a donation to Piney Woods so we could go and buy some things for the dorm. These are some pictures that I took. You did that, and we were so appreciative of your support of my response to that, and even now, so as we are working with President Crossley in this campaign, I've asked many of you on my page if you would give $5, $19, whatever amount. I have a page with almost 40,000 people on it who they fuss, they write, they express, they do all. I mean, we talk about everything, and they've been so tremendously supportive. And so I'm asking you to support this effort. You see the Cash App $ the Piney Woods School scrolling. You can also go on the website as well. But if you got 1,000, 5,000 people giving $5, that adds up. Okay. And they will be appreciative. And tell us about the matching fund campaign that you have going on right now.
Yeah, well, yes, and it's been so really exciting. We have some supporters, who've been blessed in their own work and have done well, and they provided a large donation.
Okay.
We received a corporate gift and used 19,000 of that in honor of Juneteenth. As a matching gift and matching campaign. And I had a donor who agreed that if we were able to match the first 19,000, that she would kick in an additional 19,000.
Wow.
And we've done that. And so we're excited that we were able to make that first match. The exciting piece is that on yesterday, as I was describing this and it was unfolding, I had yet another donor step up to offer an additional $19,000 matching campaign. And so
get out of here.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we're excited that this campaign for student scholarship here at Piney Woods, I mentioned earlier, our scholarship fund, unfortunately, has been somewhat depleted. And so we're doing everything we can to restore that. And so this campaign continues with major gifts from some of our longtime major supporters. And so we're really thankful to all those folks who have been stepping up. And I see you showing on the screen. Typically this time of year, we do a gospel concert, and gospel artists come from all over the country. And we've had, you name them, we've likely had them here supporting this. And this year, we, of course, were not able to do that because of social distancing.
Sure.
Pandemic. And so this campaign in some ways began to take the place of that Give from Your Heart family fun fest gospel concert that we normally do, and it has been so extraordinarily successful. So we would ask everyone to give what you can.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: sometimes people think, well, if they can only give $5 or $10 or $19 or $20, that it's not worth it. But it's so very much worth it. The donors who have stepped up with $19,000 and $20,000 gifts, they were moved and inspired by the number of people who had given $5 or $10 gifts. That was what caused them to open their own pockets. And so it really does make a huge difference when people choose to make a gift with us. And it makes a huge difference in our ability to provide for our young people.
Yes, yes, indeed. Nancy, I know you're watching, and you said post a donation link. It is $ the Pineywood School, and I'll post it on my page as well, so that you can see it. But it is strolling across the screen. Brother Will, would you tell us why would a parent send their child to Pineywood from Atlanta, from Alabama, from LA, from Mississippi, bypassing, public schools and other schools? Tell us why one would want to bring their child to Piney Woods.
Yeah, so Pineywood School, we're a small school. We've done this work historically for over a century. And this question came up recently to me, and I was asked about, was Piney Woods able to compete with other schools, let's say in offering the number of foreign languages? They're your I'm not picking on them, but one of my trustees, a former president of Phillips Exeter Academy, and I believe they may have 7 or 8 languages there, and so there's a question of do we expand? And we brought, and I said, well, our focus is not on offering more foreign languages than the next the next school.
Right.
What we do is we invest in the promise and potential of the young people who we are entrusted to serve. Young people who look like us.
Yes.
Young people who may not see people in the classroom or in school leadership who look like me and you. And so what we do, and what we do well, is we take in these young people, we embrace them, we remind them of their own self-worth and the promise that lies within them, and we send them into the world to make a difference. That is something we do better than anybody else I can think of. And so if you have a young person and you're looking for a place where they can be safe, right? Because as we all you have to do is turn on your social media or your cable news to see that our children, and especially our young men, have to live lives of defense. And we're creating a space that is culturally empowering, where students need not live on defense. They can simply live. We're creating a space where students need not be protected. They are protected already, so they can just simply be who they are.
Yes, sir.
And so Pineywood School it's really the only place I can think of that's truly built by us, for us, and in which we engage in a learning process with our students, because we don't have all the answers, and so we want to engage in that process. And so if you want a place that is going to be culturally empowering to your young person, that's going to empower them every single day and remind them of who they are and whose they are.
Right.
If you want to be in a place that's going to ensure, I guarantee every student that comes here, if you want to go to college, I'll send you to college. That's my guarantee, right?
Wow.
But that's not my only guarantee. My other guarantee is that if you go through this process with us, when you go to college, you will go confident in who you are and what you bring. Often our young people don't believe that they're as worthy of sitting in a classroom with folks who may look different from them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of my students recently told me she was looking at her college courses, and she saw that she's required to take an ethics class her first year of college. And so she began reading through the materials, and one of the courses dealt with Aristotle.
Mm.
Well, it turns out that I teach an ethics class. I teach an ethics seminar here.
Okay.
And one of the authors that we look at and that we think about critically and scrutinize is Aristotle. And so she told me she's ready. She said she didn't like my class, but she's got to take one. So she's ready.
She's ready, huh?
She's ready to go and do that. But the reason I introduce students to Aristotle is because I want them to know that they're as capable of studying Aristotle as anybody who may not have skin with as much melanin as theirs.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So that is the kind of space that we create for our young people. And so if you're interested in a space that's going to invest in your children in that manner, this is the place for you. This is the place for them.
That is incredible. And then the last thing, your graduation rate. I mean, your graduates, most, if not all, head to college, or some academic setting, or prepare for whatever the next level of work is for their life.
Yes, so we successfully get all of our kids admitted into post-secondary education and training, and I include not just four-year colleges and universities, but some of our families, community college is a better fit. Four-year colleges can be expensive, and often if they start at a two-year college,
right,
and move on, that becomes much more affordable for that family. And so all of our students have an opportunity to go on to post-secondary education and training. And we include in that armed forces. We have young people who have decided they want to go on to the Army or to the Air Force or in other parts of the armed forces. But all of our young people who stick with us have a positive result. We're really proud of that. It's not just me saying it. We thought we needed a third-party validator, and so we were able to get a local foundation here in Jackson to confirm all of our information, and they work with the College Board and pull all the data of our graduates over the last 4 years. And our young people, not only are we getting them into college, our graduates are persisting in college at 85% or better in each graduating class. And so those are results I would put up against any other school that you can think of. And so we're extraordinarily proud of these young people.
Wow, I tell you, an incredible experience. And the last thing, which you didn't say, you are a graduate of the Piney School.
I am indeed. It was interesting because you mentioned earlier about something transformational. I don't remember the exact quote, but you used the term transformational. I was blessed to go to school here. I finished here, went on to the University of Chicago for undergraduate and Harvard University for graduate school, University of Virginia for law school. I worked for the governor of Georgia. I don't recall if we talked about this. I lived in Atlanta for a number of years.
Right.
And in fact, we'll be in Atlanta next week. Would love to share with folks if they're interested in meeting with me or our family, my wife who works with our young people, and my daughter who went to school here. We'll all be there. And then Washington, D.C., I clerked for federal judges, including Judge Damon Keefe in Detroit.
Oh, wow.
One of our brothers, and then worked for big law, and then for government and an appointment by President Obama. I then had the opportunity to come back here. And when I was working for the government, I was moving all around the country and I was giving speeches, and it was all really great stuff. But I wasn't as connected. And I came here and I had the opportunity on several occasions to sit down with a young person. It's a young lady who was from Baltimore, and she was about to go back home to Baltimore. She had gotten into college,
right?
Decided not to go because there were some things happening at home. She wanted to get back home, and I said, no, you need to go to college. And I put her on the phone with a woman, alum, an alumna of Piney Woods, and we finally convinced that young lady to go to college. She is now a graduate of Spelman College.
Oh, wow.
And is working for Anderson Consulting. I don't think it's called Anderson anymore, whatever their new name is. But yes, but I was describing all of this when I decided to come and do this work. And another role model for me, and a brother of ours, Dr. Otis Moss Jr. of Olivet Institutional in Cleveland. I was talking to him about these, and he said to me, well, Will, the work you described to me in DC was work that was very transactional. But the work you described that you're doing at Piney Woods is work that's very transformational.
Mm-hmm.
And from transactional to transformational, was the reason that I came to do this work. The last reason I came to do this work was because, having been a student here, I learned what Lawrence C. Jones taught all of his students here, and what I continue to teach our students today, what the Gospel of Luke teaches all of us.
Yes.
That to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes, indeed.
And so I have great privilege and honor of being able to serve in this capacity after having been on the other side. And excited to be able to do it. So when I tell our students I know what you're going through, I really mean it.
You really do. Yeah. You really do. And let me say that Otis Moss is a wordsmith. That sounded like something he would connect together. I had the distinction too of presenting an honor to Judge Damon Keefe. I pulled these up because that was one of the highlights of my life. Distinguished civil rights attorney and judge, who I think he died last year, I believe.
That's correct. Yes.
He died last year, but that was a wonderful honor, and I had no idea that you worked with him. Yes. So I had the grand honor. Yeah. The law clerk. To the incomparable, Damon J. Keefe. Yeah, I tell you. Well, listen. Thank you so much. Let me say to those of you who are watching, particularly my brothers and sisters in the 4th Episcopal District of the CME Church in Mississippi, if you know of some young kids in your church, your neighborhood that should be a part of the Piney Woods experience, reach out to President Crossley and just go by faith. Okay, they will work with you, and try to do everything that they can to help you and those kids. It is a great investment, and I'm asking all of my Facebook friends watching now and who will watch later on to do a Cash App or whatever amount you can afford today. to invest in this historic, one of the few last remaining historic Black boarding schools. I don't know if there are any still open historically that have been around for as long as Piney was, but it is certainly worth that investment. Any closing words from you, sir, before we say goodbye?
Well, I just appreciate you for having us on. I want to appreciate those in advance. If you would contribute to our scholarship fund, to our young people, every dollar goes to scholarship for a young person. I often just live by the words that Robert Frost did in his the closing words of his poem, that I've miles to go before I sleep.
Before I sleep, yes.
Miles to go before I sleep.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I thank you so much for joining us today, and wish you nothing but the best. Now, I think, is the school opening back up in the fall? Will the students be on campus? Have you all made that decision yet?
Yes, so that is exciting. Our board met last week and gave a go forward. We are putting together.
Hallelujah! Thank you.
We are putting together a COVID-19 response plan. And I am so thankful. We have gotten the support of University of Mississippi Medical Center.
Okay.
They are going to test all of our students as they return to campus.
Okay.
You know, we are a sustainable learning community and
Right.
somewhat self-contained. And so once we get the kids here, they will be here with us, and we can control what comes in and what goes out.
Sure.
And so, and then we're rural, and so we can be spaced out as well.
Right.
We have a full-time nurse here.
Okay.
And she's on call 24/7, and we have space to create some emergency quarantine homes.
Okay.
So if it comes to someone who may be sick, we will be able to quarantine them. And so we're putting all of this together in a plan for how we hope to do this. Now, when we break for Thanksgiving, we are not expecting for students to come back between Thanksgiving and December, but we do expect to start up in September.
Okay.
And I tell you, thank you so much for entrusting your son to our care. He is a jewel of a young man, and I'm extraordinarily proud to have him as a part of our school family.
Well, I thank you. The wonderful staff observed and watched and pushed and you know, we did to make sure that he made it to the finish line this semester. I think they were all disappointed in not being able to return back, you know, to some extent. But the care, the constant phone calls, making sure that he was on top of things, that's just something you don't necessarily get in certain circumstances. And he went down and he rediscovered his musical gifts and talents, which I'm so grateful for, because he had kind of put that on the back burner. And so I'm glad. So we're looking forward, you know, good Lord willing, to see you back in late August and September. And we thank God and pray God's blessings on the Piney Woods School. We've had the pleasure of having Brother Will Crossley with us today to share as a part of their Juneteenth celebration. So you know what to do. Share. And my mother is watching, I believe. My mom is 86 years old, decided to get on Facebook a few months ago, and we've had to kind of help her through it, because some of y'all so crazy. Y'all be posting and sending all kind of crazy stuff. And we had to tell Mom, don't worry about that. You don't have to respond to any of that foolishness. You know how some of y'all folks are. Sometimes it ain't folks, it's family members sending all kind of mess. But at any rate, she has maneuvered Facebook and all that. I think I saw her listed as well. But God bless you, and maybe I'll see you while you're in Atlanta. Mr. President told me he was coming. I said, Lord, see if you can fit Jadari's keyboard in your car. If not, we'll get it. God bless you, man. And thank you for the work that you continue to do. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
All right.
That was wonderful. So enjoy sharing with the president of Piney Woods, Will Crossley. And please support. And not just because my son is there, but because it is a place for African-American boys and girls across this country, a safe haven for them as they are empowered to go and to do the work that God has called them to do. Lastly, I want to close with, I'm going to move so you all can see my new poster here that I acquired yesterday. I just love this poster in the midst of all of my other stuff. And you know how I close out as a reminder that in all we do, and there's a lot going on, particularly in Oklahoma, Tulsa today. What kind of leader do we have who would threaten folks if they protest peacefully in public? I tell you, Lord, we got to get to the polls in November, and you got to vote, because if another 4 years of this, I'm telling you, I'm going to Africa, Liberia, Ghana. It doesn't matter, to get away from that foolishness that we have up in the White House. Love you. Remember, and I'll see you soon. Remember, my brothers and my sisters, that Black lives do matter. This is Skip Mason with Conversations with Skip, signing off. Take care.